A deep dive into Meghan Markle's ever-changing faces. Same woman, different faces. I have nothing against plastic surgery. God knows if I could afford it, I'd probably have something done. But Meghan Markle takes this to a completely different level. Believe it or not, you're going to see and you're going to tell me that if you saw these two women out in the street, you would think that they're this.
It's a boundary you want to push is your face. Go for it. Go for it. If that's the boundary you want to push, if you want to see how far you can stretch your face before it pops, go for it.
Growing speculation that Meghan Markle went under the knife before her Paris disaster trip designed to traumatize Prince Harry with that journey.
What if everything you thought you knew about Meghan suddenly started feeling a little off? The internet is going wild right now. Timelines are blowing up, discussions are heating up, and now Candace Owens is stepping right into the spotlight with claims that have people doing double takes everywhere. From subtle changes that fans keep pointing out to side-by-side comparisons spreading fast across social media, this situation grabbed attention almost overnight. This story is pulling eyes from every direction, and it is not slowing down anytime soon. People online are asking big questions, sharing bold takes, and trying to figure out what is actually real and what might just be speculation. Candace Owens is not holding back either, putting her perspective out there in a way that is sparking serious reactions across platforms. Supporters are backing her up, critics are pushing back hard, and right in the middle of all that noise, fans are trying to piece everything together. Now hold on, because this was never really about looks. Not even close. If it was just about appearance, this whole conversation would have faded a long time ago. When Candace Owens brought up Meghan Markle, she was not focused on small details or surface-level things. She went deeper into a space that feels way more uncomfortable.
Markle. Has she gone under the knife? Let's start by looking at her from the age of 17 to today at the age of 38. Are you seeing any obvious changes here? Well, I'd like to have you focus on her nose and her lips. Those are two areas that we're really going to focus.
Meghan Markle gets some sort of nose job or plastic surgery. That is a question I have been asking myself after people started to point out that, hey, her nose looks a bit different in her birthday picture. And not to mention the fact we really haven't seen her in a month.
She suffers from such a rare disorder of being unable to just be gone into the doctor and said, give me this look. Like, because these trans, I don't know, we just call it trans women, look now like the Hollywood girls. They're all getting the same, like the buckle.
And way harder to ignore. She started questioning the timing, the patterns, and most importantly, why similar moments keep happening whenever pressure starts building. And that right there is what keeps people locked into this topic, unable to look away. Because to many watching, it does not feel random at all. And it is not just online chatter either. People did not suddenly start paying attention to changes overnight, especially in an industry where transformation is already so common. No, what really caught people's attention was something else entirely. A pattern started forming, and once people saw it, they couldn't unsee it. It felt like a cycle, stepping back, going quiet, then returning, looking more refined, more polished, with a new explanation ready to go. And then it happens again. And again, pay close attention, because this is where everything starts to flip. Once a pattern shows up, it stops being just about appearance. It starts to feel more calculated, more controlled. Control over the narrative, control over criticism, control over how everything is presented to the public. That is the shift people are reacting to right now. Candace Owens didn't create that feeling. She just gave it a voice.
Did have a conservative rhinoplasty surgery. Now, this nose job did a lot for Meghan Markle. What it did was it brought focus back to her gorgeous eyes and her beautiful smile. A nose really can't make you beautiful because she was already beautiful. This just put the focus back on her other gorgeous features.
We're gonna start with Meghan Markle. She's been in the news recently. She's kind of always in the news. I think she's a very attractive biracial girl or woman. Looks like possible tip graft and more tip projection, as well as the nostrils narrowing, bridge being more defined. So those are all telltale signs of a rhinoplasty.
She said what a lot of people were already noticing but couldn't fully explain, because there is a tension there. You can't promote authenticity while constantly reshaping your image every time things get uncomfortable. You can't talk about empowerment and then step away the moment pressure shows up. That contrast is what people are focusing on. And this isn't about judging, it's about timing. It's about how everything seems to line up Some people missed it at first, but not everyone. There were those who noticed early on. The shifts, the changes, how they seem to follow moments of controversy almost perfectly. And now one big question is hanging in the air with no clear answer. If the image keeps evolving to avoid pressure, what happens when the pressure never stops? That's where things begin to crack, at least in the eyes of the public watching closely. And to understand why trust started shifting, you have to go all the way back before the spotlight, before the messaging, before everything became so carefully presented. Early photos of Meghan Markle show a very different look, something more natural, still developing the way it normally does over time. Softer lines, less defined features, a more relaxed overall appearance. Nothing overly shaped, nothing trying to stand out. Just a natural phase of growth that many people go through. Pause for a second, because this part matters more than people think. A lot of viewers scroll past this stage without even noticing, but others looked closer.
Teeth. When you see younger pictures of her, she had teeth that had a lot of gaps in them, a little wider, a little smaller, and now she has this really bright, amazing smile. You know, people shouldn't underestimate how much that adds to somebody's look. Not only prettier, but again, younger, just more attractive, everything. So I think it was done well and not overdone, and I think it was a good job. One of the things that's pretty obvious is probably in her 20s or 30s or sometime around, a little bit younger, she did her nose. Rhinoplasty, again, is something that the noses don't naturally shrink, take more contour, the tip doesn't raise, nostrils don't come in on their own. So I'm kind of giving away, but that's what I noticed in her nose. So if we look at her when she was younger, her nose was more bulbous, the nostrils were a little wider, the bridge of her nose wasn't as defined. And then as we move into, like I said, photos of her a little bit older, we see that the nose has shrunk down. The tip looks like possible tip graft and more tip projection, as well as the nostrils narrowing, bridge being more defined. So those are all telltale signs of a rhinoplasty being done.
So it's kind of like, it's an obsession with this woman. The same thing for the marriage. Remember when she said that she didn't know anything about the royals, and yet she did an interview way back when she was criticizing Catherine's wedding, saying, oh, that was a big thing, that she didn't need that woman didn't need that spectacle and blah, blah.
And those details started raising questions. Experts have even pointed out that features like that are completely normal and often part of natural structure. Nothing unusual, nothing that needs changing, just a baseline that reflects early development. But then, as time moves forward into the early 20s, small changes begin to appear. The hairline looks more defined, the brows more shaped, the smile brighter and more uniform. Dental work starts getting mentioned, possibly veneers. Not shocking, not rare at all, but it does mark a shift. And this is where things move from guessing to noticing. Not accusations, just direction. A clear transition from natural growth into something more intentional, more polished, and more controlled. This is where things start shifting from simply growing into your features.
My area of expertise, but you have been looking into this for some time, and you believe it is true that Meghan Markle has gone under the knife.
Oh, yes. I mean, of course she has. She's never actually said I have, but you can see because certain things have changed quite significantly, and she's that sort of woman. She's going to do with it. I mean, the easiest one is to talk about teeth. When she was younger, she had gaps, and now she's got beautiful teeth, and that helps her give us all a lovely shiny smile. So that's that.
Picture. Now she does still seemingly have the little bit of the bump here, which makes me a little less convinced that she had some sort of nose job in a way, because if you would fix this, why don't you fix that too? And somebody also mentioned that, well, hey, when you purse your lips like that, your nose does tend to move in a particular way, where this sort of slope thing.
To actively managing how those features show up on camera, and people definitely noticed at this stage. A lot of viewers kept repeating the same thing over and over again. She already had strong features, a defined structure, natural lip fullness, the kind of balance many try to reach later on. So a quiet question started forming, and it stuck with people. Why refine something that already works so well? That is where the conversation takes a turn, because once authenticity becomes part of the public image, those earlier changes start to feel different. They don't look random anymore. They begin to feel more intentional, like there was awareness from the start, like a long-term vision was already in motion. Nothing extreme happens right away, but the direction becomes clear. And once that direction is set, the changes don't just stop. By the mid-20s, the face still looks familiar, but not untouched anymore. This is the stage that confuses people the most. You hear it all the time. No one can point to one exact thing, but something feels different. And when you look closer,
I'm also going to tell you by the end of it what I think about those rumors that she may have had some Botox. Well, here she is at the age of 17, and here she is at the age of 25. And this is who I consider to be the natural young Meghan Markle, before she may have had anything done. And when you take a look at her nose, she has a very characteristic nose. She has a bit of a round tip to her nose, and she has a little bit of width to her nose, which is very consistent with her ethnicity. Also take a peek at her lips. She has nice full lips that anybody would die.
And then, but actually more important again is the face, of course. And she had a different sort of face, really. She had a bridge that was too defined. So they worked on that, and they worked on the side, and all of the freckles which they use, the skin looked flawless because of all her...
Small details begin to stand out. The cheekbones seem more defined in certain angles. The jawline looked sharper, more structured. The smile shows more upper teeth, giving it a brighter, more polished appearance. Even at rest, the lips seem more shaped without anything looking obvious on its own. None of these details prove anything by themselves, but together, they start to feel intentional. And that is exactly why this phase matters so much. Experts often mention that the features many people aim for later in life are already showing up right here. More visible teeth when smiling, balanced proportions, that refined look people often request. And yet, at this stage, those traits already appear to be present. So now the question shifts again, not what changed, but why change anything at all? Why refine something that already worked so well on camera? That is when a new idea starts entering the conversation. Preparation. Preparation for attention, for scrutiny, for everything that comes with being constantly in the public eye. Close-ups, red carpets, endless photos.
Back when you look throughout Meghan Markle's entire career, she never wanted people to know that she was Black. She never wore that on her sleeve. She never spoke about her.
Meghan Markle, the royal duchess, is influencing trends worldwide, including plastic surgery.
She's beautiful. I mean, her nose is just striking.
Yes, that nose. Pure perfection.
But now let's take a peek at her 7 years later at the age of 32. Now she's made it big in Hollywood, and what are we seeing with her nose? Has it been thinned a little bit? I think it's definitely possible that she's had some very conservative thinning of her nose and maybe even a little projection.
Every angle being analyzed. This is where things quietly begin to shift. Nothing explosive yet. No major headlines, no big reactions. But something subtle clicks in the audience's mind. And once it clicks, it doesn't go away. People stop seeing natural change and start seeing direction. Because now it doesn't feel like time passing anymore. It feels like steps being taken one after another. And once that feeling settles in, it becomes very hard to ignore. Then comes the next phase, where everything becomes way more noticeable. By the early 30s, the tone of the conversation completely changes. People are no longer just saying she looks different. Now they start getting specific. One feature keeps coming up again and again in discussions, comments, and side-by-side comparisons. The same detail keeps being pointed out. Earlier images show a softer structure, a more relaxed overall shape. But over time, that appearance seems more refined, more streamlined, more precise, especially from certain angles. This is where the discussion stops feeling casual, because experts often explain that noticeable structural changes are not usually explained by simple things like lighting or makeup alone. When one area shifts, it can subtly influence the overall balance of the face. And then people start noticing even smaller details. The spacing, the proportions, how everything aligns over time. Some viewers point out that certain areas appear slightly different.
When she was 39, her features have a softer quality to them. Now at 44, there is a notable shift in how more youthful her face looks, and it looks significantly more defined and lifted. While weight loss can enhance facial definition, that alone does not account for the changes that we're seeing here. I think she's had an upper and lower blepharoplasty and a face and neck lift. The upper eyelids are more on show, there's less skin around the under eye area, and the lower facial contour speaks for itself. Comparing this photo from 2021 to now, the tragus has been slightly altered and the earlobe position has changed in position and also how it attaches to the face. You can clearly see she takes great care of her skin, and non-surgical modalities like skincare, skin devices and Botox will play an important role here in enhancing the overall look.
Yes, one person said she looked as if she was were wearing toilet paper. So I think that they were not very impressed by it.
What's quite interesting, I think, when you look at all of this, that she is definitely suffering at the moment from a career slump until Saturday. Is this going to
And according to common expert insights, changes in one feature can sometimes affect others to maintain overall balance. That is the part that keeps people talking, because it creates the idea of sequence, one change leading into another, one adjustment influencing the next, not random, not isolated, but connected in a way that raises more and more questions the deeper people look. This is the point many viewers describe as the turning moment, not because anything looks negative, but because it starts to feel unfamiliar, less natural, more designed. And once that feeling hits, it sticks. This is when one phrase starts showing up everywhere. In comments, in discussions, in quiet conversations people keep having. She doesn't look like herself anymore. And once that idea settles in, it becomes very hard to shake. It changes how people view everything that comes after.
Of doing that sort of thing gives her pleasure. That's what makes her feel big. But I think it's very nasty, and I don't think that she's going to make it, because she hangs on to Harry all the time. She's got his hand, his body, he can't move, he doesn't want him to go unless she gives him a sort of break for 2 days, 4 days, what it is. But actually when he's in a big place, she's very, very nervous, like she was in the French play.
Then going down the face, if you look at her nose, 100% she's had a rhinoplasty. So do you guys see that this is wider here and narrower here, and you can see more of the bridge of the nose. It's like more, what's the word right? It's just more defined, the bridge here, where the bridge here, it starts narrow and it goes big like this. And here it's like narrow.
Because now it is no longer just about looking different. And then something else starts happening, and this is where it becomes way more noticeable. It is not just about change anymore. It is about disappearance. Not permanent, not announced, just long, quiet stretches. No appearances, no events, no consistent public presence. And then suddenly, she is back again. But this time, people are not just listening. They are watching closely, studying every detail. The brows seem to sit differently. The cheeks look tighter in some moments, then more hollow in others. The jawline appears sharper. The skin looks smoother, but also thinner, almost reflective under certain lighting. This is where the conversation shifts again. People stop casually guessing and start paying real attention. The same questions keep coming up, just in different ways. Why does this keep happening? Why does it always follow those quiet disappearances? And why does every return feel like some kind of reset? In the entertainment world, long breaks can sometimes line up with time needed for things to settle.
Terrified of her, and they think that actually she will get her way because she's powerful, she's got money, they think so anyway, and that she's got no end of how ghastly she can be, like she's been with Diana. And I think that's all about it, actually, that people are just scared of her.
So if you look at her before picture, she does have, you can see a little bit of a tear trough here. And what I would do is just do like a tiny little drop there. But here it's completely, there's filler here. Going down the face though, if you look at this cheek, this is definitely filler. Do you see this? Where in the before picture she doesn't have.
It can take a while for swelling to go down, for changes to fully show, for everything to balance out. That alone does not confirm anything, but it does explain why people start connecting patterns, especially when what they see does not match typical aging, because aging usually softens features over time. But what some viewers say they notice feels different. Tight in one area, more hollow in another, refined in one moment, then slightly strained in the next. And that contrast is exactly what keeps the conversation alive. That contradiction becomes the story. And once people lock onto it, they do not let go. More and more viewers start saying the same thing. She actually looked younger before, softer, more relaxed, more natural. And when enough people start feeling that way, curiosity does not stay harmless. It turns into real skepticism. Because if the goal was to quiet criticism, it ends up doing the opposite. The disappearances do not calm things down. They make people talk even more. And then comes the return that was supposed to reset everything in one big moment. Paris was meant to be that moment. High fashion, global attention, cameras everywhere. a perfectly controlled environment where image is everything. This should have signaled confidence, relevance, a fresh start. But instead, it flipped the entire conversation. Under bright lights and unfiltered lenses, people did not stay focused on the outfit for long. The attention shifted fast to the face. The skin appeared unusually shiny. The cheeks looked more hollow. The jawline came off sharper, almost too firm. Even the eyes seemed tighter, less relaxed than before. And people noticed immediately. Some said she looked uncomfortable, like she was trying to present a version of herself that did not fully match anymore. And that reaction did not build slowly. It hit all at once. Comments started repeating across platforms, getting sharper each time. Words like pulled, older instead of younger, kept showing up again and again. Some pointed to weight changes. Others started wondering about possible overcorrections or outside factors. Nothing was confirmed. But at that point, the volume of reactions mattered more than proof, because now this was not just curiosity anymore. It turned into full backlash. For years, these conversations stayed low-key, almost under the surface. But after Paris, that was no longer possible. Everything was suddenly out in the open. This moment was fully public, captured from every angle, heavily photographed, impossible to soften or smooth out. No filters to rely on, no perfect lighting to hide behind, and instead of admiration, the reaction took a sharp turn. People did not just question it, they pushed back. Some felt like they were being presented with a reset that did not land, a reinvention that felt forced, a comeback that came across more urgent than confident. And once an audience decides something does not feel right, that reaction spreads fast. Because now it is not just about appearance anymore, it is about the strategy behind it. And once people start noticing strategy, that is when credibility starts to take a hit. The conversation shifts again. It is no longer just about how things look. It becomes about control. After Paris, something changes in a way people can clearly feel. The response does not come across calm or reflective. It feels like pressure building. Criticism gets brushed aside. Questions get reframed as negativity. Doubt starts getting treated like disloyalty. And that is when the pattern fully clicks for viewers. The more the image gets questioned, the tighter it seems to be controlled. And people notice that connection fast. Viewers begin sharing their own experiences, saying they were blocked for mild comments, called out for simple questions, labeled harsh just for pointing out what they see. And once that starts happening, the feeling shifts completely. Because now the audience does not feel inspired, they feel managed. And that is where confidence starts to fade. Real confidence does not need to respond to everything or control every reaction. Every reaction gets noticed. But when it starts feeling like every single response is being managed, people pick up on that instantly. Real confidence does not need backup. It does not need constant correcting, and it definitely does not need to fight. Every comment, it stands on its own, absorbs the noise, and keeps moving forward. But that is not the energy people feel here, and that is where the tension begins to build. What people are sensing instead feels different. It feels like pressure, like a fear of losing control, a sense that if the image slips even slightly, everything starts to unravel. And at that point, it stops being about looks completely. The face becomes a symbol of effort, of constant adjusting, of trying to stay ahead of public opinion instead of facing it directly. Viewers are keeping it simple, but the question hits hard. If there is nothing to hide, why does everything feel so tightly controlled? And the wild part is, that question does not even need a clear answer to keep getting louder. Because once control starts replacing confidence, people stop giving the benefit of the doubt. And that is when things move beyond appearance and start affecting reputation. That is exactly where Candace Owens comments. Land the strongest, not because they are harsh, but because they are direct. She did not focus on small details or technical breakdowns. She pointed straight at the pattern. Reinvention after backlash, silence after criticism. A new version appearing when the previous narrative starts losing momentum. And then came the idea that really stuck with people. The thought that you cannot outpace accountability forever. That line hit because it echoed what many were already noticing on their own. At this point, the conversation is not even about what changed anymore. It is about why it keeps happening. Why the resets feel surface level instead of genuine. Why people are starting to feel worn out by the cycle. And here is the part that is hard to ignore. If changing the image did not quiet the backlash, if stepping away did not rebuild trust, if that major moment in Paris did not reset anything, then what is left? This is where everything hits a wall. because reinvention has limits. And when that limit shows up, change stops looking powerful and starts looking like avoidance. And that is when the shift happens. Not loud, not explosive, but quieter and more serious. People stop reacting with frustration and start becoming indifferent. And that is the real risk. Because once people stop caring, relevance can start slipping fast. Here's the part many avoid. This was never really about appearance alone. It was not just about aging or beauty. It is about alignment. When the outside keeps changing, but the message stays defensive, people notice that disconnect immediately. That is when trust begins to fade, because when authenticity is being pushed, but resets keep showing up right on time, it starts to feel managed. And once trust fades, the audience does not wait for explanations. They begin forming their own conclusions. The questions shift completely. It is no longer what changed. Now it becomes, why does this keep happening? That is where the conversation becomes uncomfortable. Not about rumors, not about one specific moment, but about the idea of control versus authenticity. Because there is one thing that cannot be edited, reshaped, or stepped away from: memory. People remember patterns. They remember how things felt. They remember being told not to question what they could clearly see, and that leads to the biggest question still hanging in the air. If the image keeps evolving, but the reaction keeps getting stronger, what happens when there is nothing left to adjust? That question has not gone anywhere. In fact, it is getting louder, and now everything circles back to this exact moment. Not just the headlines, not just the images, not even the debates, but the way people feel after watching it all unfold. Because attention can be influenced for a while, but perception, that is a completely different story. What started as quiet curiosity turned into full conversations, and those conversations turned into strong opinions that are not fading anytime soon. People have watched every phase, every shift, every return, and now they are connecting the dots in real time. And whether someone agrees or disagrees, one thing is clear: this story has people completely locked in, and it is easy to see why. It is not just about one person anymore. It has grown way beyond that. What people are really reacting to now is the pattern they believe they are seeing. The timing, the shifts, the way everything seems to line up in a way that feels too consistent to ignore. And once that kind of idea takes hold, it spreads fast. Because this is not just about appearances or moments anymore. It is about perception. It is about how quickly things can change when the audience starts asking deeper questions and looking at the bigger picture instead of isolated events. And once people move from reacting to thinking, that is when everything changes. You can feel that shift happening right now. The conversation is no longer surface level. People are not just reacting to what they see in the moment, they are connecting past moments, comparing timelines, and trying to make sense of everything as a whole. And that is what makes this situation so intense, because once people start connecting dots, it becomes very hard to reverse that momentum. And the most unpredictable part of all this is what comes next, because no one really knows how this plays out from here. That is what keeps everyone watching so closely. Will things finally slow down and settle, or will every new appearance bring even more attention, more discussion, more analysis? That uncertainty is what keeps the energy alive. It is what keeps people refreshing timelines, checking updates, and jumping into conversations. Because at this point, every new moment feels like it could either calm everything down or take things to a completely different level. And what makes it even more powerful is how involved people have become. This is no longer a one-sided situation where people just watch and move on. They are actively participating, they are sharing opinions, comparing perspectives, and challenging each other's views. Some believe everything is being overanalyzed, that people are reading too much into normal changes and natural shifts that happen over time. Others feel just as strongly that there is something deeper going on, something more intentional, something that cannot just be explained away so easily. And that divide is what keeps the conversation alive. Because when people disagree this strongly, the discussion does not fade. It grows. It pulls more people in, more voices, more takes, more perspectives. And the more it grows, the harder it becomes to ignore. Because now it is not just a passing topic anymore, it becomes something people keep coming back to. Something that sticks in their minds long after they scroll past it. At the same time, there is another layer to all of this that people are picking up on. It is not just about what is being seen, but how it is being responded to. Because reactions matter just as much as actions in moments like this. When people feel like questions are being dismissed or concerns are being brushed aside, it does not calm things down. It often has the opposite effect. It makes people even more curious, even more focused, even more determined to figure things out for themselves. And that is exactly what seems to be happening here. The more the situation is addressed in a controlled or guarded way, the more people start paying attention to how it is being handled, not just what is being shown. Because at the end of the day, audiences today are sharp. They notice tone, they notice timing, they notice shifts in messaging. And once they start noticing those things, it adds another layer to the conversation. So now it is not just about the visible changes or the public appearances, it is about the full picture. The pattern, the response, the timing, the way everything connects. And when all those pieces come together, it creates a situation where people feel like they are watching something unfold in real time. Something that is still developing, still evolving, still open-ended. That is what makes it so hard to look away. Because there is no clear ending yet. There is no final answer, no moment where everything gets wrapped up and explained. Instead, it feels ongoing. Like every new update could shift the narrative again. Like every appearance could change how people see everything that came before it. And that kind of uncertainty keeps people invested. It keeps them watching, thinking, and coming back for more. At the same time, there is also a sense that this has reached a turning point. That things cannot just continue in the same cycle forever without something eventually giving. Because patterns, once noticed, create expectations. And once people expect something, they start watching even more closely to see if it happens again. And if it does, the reaction gets stronger. If it does not, that also becomes part of the story. Either way, the attention does not fade. That is why this moment feels so important. Because it is not just about what has already happened, it is about what this means moving forward. Will the narrative shift? Will the reactions change? Will the pattern continue, or will something break that cycle? Those are the questions that are keeping people hooked right now. And the truth is, everyone watching has their own interpretation. Some see coincidence, others see intention. Some see normal evolution, others see calculated change. And that is exactly why this conversation is not going anywhere anytime soon. Because when a topic reaches this level of attention, it does not just disappear. It evolves, it expands, it pulls in more perspectives and keeps growing. And that brings it right back to you. What do you think about all of this? Do you feel like everything is being overanalyzed? Or do you think people are picking up on something real? Drop your thoughts down in the comments, because this is one of those moments where every opinion adds something new to the conversation. And if you made it this far, do not just sit back and scroll past. Be part of what is happening. Hit that like button so more people can see this and join the discussion. Subscribe so you do not miss what comes next, because this story is still unfolding and there is more to come. And make sure to share this with anyone else who has been following along, because the more people join in, the bigger the conversation becomes. Because one thing is certain, this is not over yet. The next chapter could change everything, and you do not want to miss it. Stay tuned, stay aware, and keep watching closely, because this situation is still developing right in front of us. And with how fast everything is moving, the next update might come sooner than anyone expects. So keep your eyes open, keep your thoughts sharp, and stay ready, because this conversation is far from finished. See you on the next one.